Now, recent budget cuts facing the KwaZulu-Natal Social Development Department could affect the department's ability to render key services to victims of the floods. The budget cuts are threatening the jobs of hundreds of workers who are central to rescue and recovery efforts and well-being of victims of the recent devastation. Joining us to unpack this more and get a fuller picture of the scale of the problem is KwaZulu-Natal Social Development Head of Department, Nelisiwe Vilakazi. Nelisiwe, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. As I mentioned, earlier on, even the Department of Health facing budget cuts, and I'm sure it's many other departments that are facing budget cuts. Are these budget cuts that have to do with the broader austerity posture of Treasury, or is there something else that is at play here as far as the cuts that your department is particularly facing?
Thank you very much, Thabo. Good evening to you and to the viewers at home. I think as the Department of Social Development, the budget cuts that we are experiencing, I think is the same as in other departments. So in our case, it does affect the officials, the workers that are working in the department. Remember, our work is labor intensive, so you do need human resources to actually do the work. So we are also affected by the budget cuts that also happened even in our department, starting from the last financial year.
What is your current budget, and where was it before, and how much of it has been cut?
Currently, the budget that has been presented by the Honorable MEC is 3.1 billion that we have. Previously, we were close to 4 billion, but due to budget cuts, then we went down to around 3.5 billion. Then the 500 million, we transferred that to the Department of Education. If you'll recall that we have done a function shift of ECD, Early Childhood Development, from Social Development to Department of Education. At least that one, the shift went to the other department with the resources. But we are unable to actually fill even the vacant posts that are there. For example, you look at the officials that passed on because of COVID-19. None of them we have been able to actually fill their positions thus far. So it does have an impact to the work that we are doing in the department. And considering the social ills that are out there, we need more personnel, we need more people to actually come and address the challenges that we have as a province.
So what are the key services that could possibly be affected by the vacancies, but also by close to what you're saying here, 900 million, at least the 500 has gone to another department, so close to a 400 million cut in your budget?
Yes, going back to the last 2 years and currently, that is what it is. So it does affect, in fact, across the board, other than the key core business of the department. The core business in the department, in terms of your questions, we provide social developmental social welfare services as the department, and we have quite a number of pieces of legislation that we need to comply with in order to ensure that the well-being of the people of KwaZulu-Natal are well taken care of. That includes child protection services, that includes services to the families, and also services with regard to restorative services in terms of the children in conflict with the law, the children in need of care, and also people with disabilities getting that services, and the care of the elder. There's quite a range of those services that need social workers. And of late, what is key also are services with regard to social behavior change programs that also is linked to quite a number of other causal factors. It might be substance abuse, it might be other issues related to criminal activities and so on. So it's quite a range of developmental services that we do. That include also poverty alleviation and sustainable development. So at this point in time, you look into the floods that have engulfed our province. You need more social workers and child and youth care workers. Social workers, they provide psychosocial services to these households, because you find that, imagine if you have your own 4-roomed house for quite a long time and you have worked very hard to build it, and overnight the house is no longer there, it's flooded. And then that on its own is traumatic. You do need these professionals to come and support you and so on.
How much of this, though, is linked to Treasury looking at your pattern of underspending as a department and them coming to this particular conclusions? For example, the 2019-2020 budget, the IFP saying you underspent there in that department by 33 million rands.
Not with regard to the compensation of employees. You know, when you look into the vacancies, the officials that need to be replaced, we were doing the write-up in terms of how many posts needs to be filled. We counted 437 in all. That includes, in the main, those in doing core business, as well as those that are doing support, because core business cannot function on its own.
So you give me an example. Sorry to jump in there. Give me an example of what core business is.
Core businesses, you need social workers, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
And social workers, they need admin support. As they work with the clients out there, there must be people in the background doing support in terms of the finances, in terms of opening of the files, the records management of the clients, so that even if you have AG auditors looking at our work, there is audit trail, because the records management are managed in a professional way in line with the Archives Act. So we cannot, for example, as much as we are a department responsible for social services, and we have social service professionals, social workers, child and youth care workers, community development practitioners, and so on. But we do need admin support in terms of finance, in terms of HR, and so on. Yeah. So it's quite a range of other categories that are also important. So right now,
how many social workers do you currently have in your books compared to the target, I suppose, per area that you would like to have?
In my books, I have about 1,500 plus the social workers in my books. But I would love to have more, because let alone the fact that based on the limited resources, as a province, we have close to 2,000 unemployed social work graduates. The majority of them were also funded by us, by the government, but we can't employ them. But we do have work that they can do because of the social ills that are out there. So as I was telling you that all in all, we have 437 vacancies that we would love to fill. But the majority of those people are social workers, and not only social workers, also supervisors, social work supervisors, because in terms of the norms and standards, social workers, they need to work under the supervision of someone else. And the norm, it says, is 1:6 or 1:10 if you don't have enough supervisors. Right. And other challenges, if I can share with you also, we do have the court rulings, the court orders that we need to comply with. For example, we have the North Gauteng High Court order, which is in relation to the foster care backlog, because in terms of the foster care, you have a court order that needs to be managed within two years. But because of the backlog, you find that it goes beyond 2 years, and then the court order said they would want to see 0% backlog as a province. So we do have those challenges, but if you have limited officials to actually do the work, you find that now you'll always have challenges in terms of responding to the court orders. Yeah. It's not Gauteng High Court order that we need to also comply with, and that needs human resources.
I would assume that with the state of disaster being declared, that as a department, particularly when it comes to relief work and social workers that you need to bring on board for that relief work, you could be able to then make requests to National for them to make that budget available. Am I correct?
Yes, thank you very much. I think that we are also supported a great deal by the National Department of Social Development. As different provinces, we have done a joint bid to National Treasury also as a way of trying to ensure that we get more funding. And we have also done, even provincial as the department, our motivation also to get the support. With regard to the disasters that we have, we have been declared as the national disasters, the province, we do need field workers to actually support the communities out there. You'll recall that some of the communities are displaced, are in community halls, and then we have a responsibility as social development to actually ensure that there is food in those areas where they are, working with the NGOs that are supporting us, and also providing this psychosocial support, which is not a once-off thing, because trauma counseling, you deal with one person at a time, you deal with the family, you deal with them as a collective, and so on. So you find that in one family it can take more than 7 sessions to actually address the issues of the trauma, and you cannot finalize that if a family is living in a community hall. So it's better when they are back in their own private space where they can support each other in terms of what has happened. So we do need field workers a great deal. Currently, what we have done, we have deployed social workers from less affected districts to come and support the areas where we are mostly affected, which is our areas around eThekwini, Ilembe, as well as Ugu districts. And that is a little bit helping. But the thing is that when they leave, going back home in their respective districts, we still need to sustain the support that we are providing to the victims of the disasters that we're managing.
Are you not then going to find yourself in a similar situation, for example, as the health department in Gauteng, where they could bring in healthcare workers on a temporary basis during COVID-19, but that brought such a relief to them that it's actually workers that they needed in the system. But because now the budgets are no longer COVID budgets, they are unable to sustain and keep them on. So should government be giving you the support now and you bring in social workers that are needed, would you be able to keep them on?
We won't be able to keep them on. For example, we had some social workers at 4 months contract, 967 of them, and then the contract expired in March 2022. We can't even employ them right now, and it's not that their jobs, there's nothing that they can do if we can employ them. There's more work, but it's just that we cannot afford to actually pay them. We employed them because there was this allocation that we received from the National Department of Social Development to support us because of COVID-19 related issues. So if we can get an additional funding, we can even employ those, the 967 that we just released, because we couldn't keep them.
Yeah. I think what's key to many people that are listening that they would want to know is whether or not your delivery of services to relieve disaster, of services rather to disaster hit areas who require relief is not going to be hampered by these budget cuts in any way.
We are struggling as we speak with the limited resources that we have. As I indicated, that we had to take social workers from other districts to actually come and support this side where we are worst affected. And imagine these officials that you're taking from other districts, it means that his or her work, there's no one who is actually doing his or her work when he is this side. Yeah. So we are affected. You're trying to solve the problem, but you're also creating other problems.
So are you saying there's a situation where you've taken caregivers from lesser hit areas so that you can provide that care to the areas that have been hit by the disaster?
Yes, that's what we've done. We have taken, for example, there are areas that are not that much affected, like Umkhanyagude district, like your Mzinyati, Amajuba district. So we've taken officials from those districts to come and support eThekwini, because eThekwini is one of the areas that were worst affected in Ilembe and Uku. So because they couldn't breathe, because the work even now, we had to also come up with some debriefing sessions to support them, because there's mammoth task in terms of supporting them. You're not only supporting the adults that are affected by the floods, even the children themselves, they're going through their own trauma in terms of what they experienced when their house was washed away and so on. Mm. So there's a lot of work that we are doing as the Department of Social Development, and we do need more resources as well.
Now, as far as early childhood development and the budgets that you've said you have now given to the Department of Education, at this particular current time with the disaster having hit eThekwini, how is that work affected?
I don't think they're affected that much, but the ECD structures themselves, they would be affected like any other structure, like the schools. But the program, the shift, it went very well when it was transferred to the Department of Education. I think in all the provinces we were complying to the pronouncement by His Excellency the President that the function will move, and it has moved swiftly and very well. And the Department of Education, they are up in arms in terms of implementing the program, and we strongly believe that it's going to be a success, considering that the work that is there is their core business in any case.